everybody, and welcome to And Just Like That, We Found Therapy. Today, I have with me Jessica Thompson. Jessica Thompson is a licensed therapist and also a doula with a passion for supporting mothers through the emotional landscape of pregnancy, postpartum, and beyond. She specializes in perinatal mental health, trauma, grief, and EMDR, helping women navigate motherhood anxiety, birth trauma, loss, and the weight of perfectionism. I had to read that one because it was a mouthful and I thought it was very relevant. Welcome, Jessica.
Thank you. I'm thrilled to be here.
Thank you so much. And I am very thrilled to have you here again through the recommendation of Dr. Nicole, who did with us episode 4, I think, of this season. And I'm very excited because today we're here to discuss season 1, episode 10 of Sex and the City, the baby shower.
The baby
So,
shower.
yeah, this is going to be amazing. So as per usual, I will just go a bit play by play of the episode and then I'll prompt you with questions and then we can start our discussion.
Sounds great. Let's jump in. I'm so excited.
Awesome. So in this episode, we start with, Carrie's voiceover and she's talking about the pain that it inflicts for a woman to receive an invitation for a baby shower of one of your friends. And I thought that that was hilarious because I am in that space right now when I'm 35. I don't have any children. I'm not married. But obviously, a lot of my friends are having babies, getting married. And I have been to quite a few baby showers. Do you feel in your work, do you normally only treat mothers or do you also treat maybe people that don't have children and are trying to have children or don't have children, period? And do you see that rivalry or inadequacy feeling that sometimes there is amongst women for this?
Yeah, that's a really good question. I would say I mainly work with mothers as that's kind of my niche here in Utah. But prior to evolving out on my own in my own practice, I've worked with, women in a variety of stages of life where they didn't want kids and were working towards making peace with that. Or I've worked with women who can have kids where they desperately want them, but for infertility reasons or other medical reasons, they can't have kids. And so it's kind of like this landscape of heartbreak and joy mixed with a lot of grief.
Yeah. So after that, I think we get introduced to the woman who is having this baby shower. And it is this Lainey character. And I think they do a flashback where I have to talk about how the girls are in costume for this flashback because it's pathetic. But anyway, it seems to be like in the 80s, 10 years before or something. And Lainey seems to be like the wild party girl. She wants to be the center of attention. She's on top of tables. She's getting undressed. She's showing her boobs to the rest of the party. And you can see that she's wild. And I think Carrie's voiceover is saying that Lainey had married an investment banker and moved to Connecticut when she was supposed to hook up with Sid Vicious and move to heroin. And fast forward to this, and then the girls are discussing together how much they are not only in shock but hating the prospect of this party. Um, do you feel that there's a lot of jealousy or this frenemy situation that we have with the girls? Because I think the way they're talking about it, like obviously Charlotte is like, I think it's great. But what about that conversation? Like, did you feel that that is very common, or do you think that this was just because Lainey was such a wild card?
Mm. Well, I want to say the first time I watched this episode, I thought it was hilarious. And I thought they did a really good job at portraying this, hey, these powerful, beautiful women in New York City, in a big city full of many people, right? And the
Yeah.
show was about them and their power and their sexuality and this female empowerment. And then to get an invitation to this baby shower, it's almost like they appeared as like disgust, like they were disgusted in a way. So when I
Yeah.
first watched that, I was laughing like, oh my gosh, they're making this scene very, or not just the scene, but the whole entire episode very dramatic in the
Yeah.
way of this is motherhood. And then I watched it a second time as a mom, and I'm like, oh my gosh, this is actually so relatable. I can relate to so many little points in this episode, and we can
I am
talk about why.
Yeah. I'm so curious because I think they all decide that they're gonna go, and it they present it as because we've been talking and you said that you had been binging the watch since we discussed to do this episode, and it reminded me a bit on the episode of the Bay of Married Pigs where they present the teams of like married versus single or coupled versus single, mothers versus no mothers. And it just pains me that it was portrayed like this in television and maybe as a caricature, but like, yes, there's a bit of like that division. And as they are planning to go that Saturday to the baby shower, Carrie finds out that her period is late. And then they all get together to drive out to Connecticut. And uh, Samantha's bringing her whiskey or something like that. Miranda's bringing condoms that are pastel, not beige. And Carrie has forgotten because she's very self-absorbed. And Charlotte is the only one that knows what's up. Shows up with like the Bellini baby basket or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
And then they get to the shower. And I'm very curious to know what it is that you felt, observed, agreed with, didn't agree with on this, because they show up and immediately you can see a lot of passive aggression, especially between Samantha and Lainey.
Oh, okay, yeah. Let's dive into this scene because this
Yes.
was probably my favorite part of the whole
Yeah.
episode. My favorite part is when before they go, they get the baby shower invitation and Samantha is, rolling her eyes like, "Why do we have to go?" and looking into Charlotte like, "Why are you trying to make sense of this? We're just not going."
Yeah.
But then they all end up going, and I remember Samantha saying, "Oh, like I can just visualize her a little bit deeper into thought, like, I wonder how fat she's getting."
Oh, yeah, yeah.
It's
Let's
like,
go and check it.
let's, that's already associating that once you become a mom, you're going to get fat. And that's not necessarily true. And also, what kind of message is that sending to mothers? I think a lot of women who don't have children yet, whether they want them or not, if they see a big show like this, and it's not just the show, it's in many shows, talking about getting fat and she's excited that she's going to get fat, or just having that underlying message like you're going to get fat as a mom. It's like,
You're going to
whoa,
lose
back
your
up.
body.
Yeah. And then you're going to lose yourself. You're going to lose everything. You're going to lose your whole life. You're going to lose your identity. So then she goes, knocks on the door. And then the first thing Samantha says to Lainey, "Look how big you are." I was so impressed with Lainey's response. She's like, "I know." Like, she was so proud of it. Like, "I can eat anything I want. Aren't you jealous?"
Yes.
I thought that was a really beautiful reframe of, she did seem to not care that she's not fat. She was literally growing a human. Like, her body was
Exactly. But
expanding.
I was going to say, if I'm ever pregnant and I look like her, because she's one of those that like from the back you would have never guessed. From up here you would have never guessed.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
And so for Samantha to say that, I felt like it was just kind of like a jab, like,
Oh, yeah.
don't like you, don't want to be here, but I'm just going to comment on how big you are. And it could be in retrospect, like, she is a lot bigger than she used to be, right?
Yeah.
The party scene, now she has a growing belly, so she could appear bigger. But just to say that out front, like the first thing you say to your so-called friend is
nice.
really rude.
Yeah. But you can see that Samantha was picking right up from that flashback scene where they talk about that rivalry that they have because they were both wild, sexy, and extremely insecure.
Yep.
And you can see that Samantha's obviously feeling still insecure in front of this woman.
Right.
But
she appears happy and excited for this new change.
yes. So as they walk in, they like Lainey introduces them as like, "Oh my God, do you remember when you felt that you were gonna die if you had to leave the island of Manhattan and blah blah blah." So she's like also putting them down a little bit with little jabs. And Charlotte is just like so happy to be in that sisterhood that Miranda lost two friends to. Um, and they're walking around, and I think Lainey's doing introductions, and she's talking about, again, portraying motherhood in a very toxic way. Because I think there's one that she's like, oh, that is Alice. Alice, don't stand up. She's doing this IVF thing. She shouldn't be moving. And then this, she never goes anywhere with her son. We call them our old marriage couple, but like it's not that nice now that she's getting divorced. Like basically everybody has a lot of baggage around having children. And then I think Samantha has another not so nice interaction with Lainey where she's like, I'm gonna have a big old drink, jealous. And Carrie goes to the bathroom thinking, is this what's in store for me now that my period is late? And we get kind of like a whirlwind of what these women were. Because I think Carrie's asking herself, could I still be myself? And like, who are these women deep down before their kids? And we get this snapshot of all the different women, pregnant or with kids, that say, I think one of them used to be a vice president and have 200 people reporting to her. And now she yells at the gardener. So no career. Another one says that, you know, she used to sleep with everybody until she met her husband. And now she has an internet lover. The other one has a lesbian fantasy with somebody with whom we guess she hooked up earlier in her life. And then another one just needs to escape life through locking herself up in the kids' treehouse, smoking a joint and listening to music. I have questions here. The first one, which I think is very big, how much do you think a woman really gives up of her own identity through motherhood?
Mm-hmm. Such a beautiful question, and one that needs to be talked about a lot more.
Yeah.
In that scene, as you described all the moms that were basically interviewed, I will say they were portrayed as really weird moms, kind of odd, like out of norm moms. And I think that's part of the show, is to bring some comedy into it and to make it a little drastic. But in a way, I think a lot of moms can relate to that, where sometimes maybe moms like want to escape this reality that they're in. And that's so true for a lot of moms, where they want to escape. It's just so much, where they feel like they're drowning in motherhood. And when it comes to identity, there's a lot of grief that can come along with when you enter into motherhood. I always tell those I work with and when I educate that when you become a mom, you're not just birthing a baby, you're not just birthing a new body postpartum, you're also birthing yourself again as a human being, and you're meeting somebody new, whether it's your first baby or your fifth or your seventh baby. You're still basically learning so much about yourself, and you become not a new person, but there's just a new part of you that's born into this new journey. And that's not talked a lot about. And that's something that I wish I would have known. And I've talked a little bit publicly about my personal journey into motherhood, and it was really challenging for me. That's what sparked my interest in working with mothers and becoming a trained perinatal therapist. Is I didn't know help was available, and my identity was lost. Like you know, I mean, I wasn't super young. I was 26 or 27 when I had my first daughter. But I lost myself because, one, you don't know what you're doing if you haven't had a kid before. I mean, you might if you nannied, but I had no idea what I was doing. And I thought all my life was just this baby that I didn't know. I kind of relate to Carrie in a way. Like, was I maternal? Does that just come? Does that come in a package when you have your baby shower? Like, how do you get maternal? That's also a question that I personally wrestled with. So a lot of moms that I work with, they feel like they lose their identity. And I love to explore with them, okay, like, let's explore what this new identity is like for you. Most of the time it's causing distress because they don't know who this person is. It's like, oh, I'm so tired. I feel like a zombie. I'm up multiple hours during the night. Or I feel like all I do is eat, sleep, change poopy diapers. They may be disconnected from friends, especially if they're the first friend in their group to have a baby. Yes. And then that maybe feels secluded, that their friends don't know how to relate anymore. She doesn't know how to relate, or she wants that so badly. And I also have to chime in as I'm talking about this. this is kind of generalized struggles, right? So if we add in
Yeah.
a perinatal mood or anxiety disorder on top
What
of
does
this huge change.
what does perinatal mean? I'm sorry, I don't.
No, that's a really good
Yeah.
question. So perinatal is basically preconception, like pregnancy, beyond postpartum.
Okay.
And
Okay.
depending on your definition, I view postpartum as life. Some medical providers view it as like 2 year, 1 year postpartum, 2 years, but
Yes.
research so at least 7 years is kind of like you're in that range. But
Wow.
once you're a mom, like you're a mom and it changes you forever. So that's why I view
So
it for life.
can I ask you maybe to, because I have seen this and it's true. No matter how much you want to be there for a friend, you don't understand because you're not there. And
Yeah.
I think there's a part of an identity of a woman that gets lost. Like it's impossible not to lose it because of what you're saying. There's no time, there's no rest. You're not a person, so there's no identity when you are underslept, overstretched, overworked. But there's the other side that is like Lainey here. And I've had friends who were always the last ones at a party. And like, they were like, okay, what was I known for before I had this baby? Always having people over, always going out until late, always staying out the most, always going to all the music festivals. Who am I now? So there's these two sections of losing identity. How do you think that maybe once hopefully the baby starts sleeping, women can navigate feeling grounded in who they enjoyed to be?
I think that helps. You think about our basic needs, right? As humans, eat, sleep, shelter, connection.
Yes.
Even before people have kids, if you're not eating or sleeping or drinking, like hydrating yourself, you're going to have a really hard time functioning during the day. It's just human, right?
Yeah.
So include a baby in there and this new identity. You're going to, for a lot of people, feel like, okay, how do I get on top of this? So I think a lot of people find it interesting when I work with a new mom who's struggling with postpartum anxiety or postpartum depression, is we go back to those basics, back to the foundation of let's figure out, build your village, figure out how you can get more sleep, how you can get more food in, hydration, sunshine, things like that. Because if they don't have that, how can they even explore their identity? How can they
Yeah.
explore this new, with curiosity instead of anger or resentment? Because they're so, I would say, out of balance in a way.
Yeah. So then I think in this episode, the girls are just, like trying to find their spot where they may enjoy themselves the most or hate it the least at the party. And Charlotte is talking to Lainey. She's like, Lainey, I have to say, your house is so beautiful. And then I don't know how it gets brought up that Lainey is expecting a daughter and she's going to name her Shayla. And Charlotte loses it. And she's like, what? And first I have to ask you, because like I'm obviously English is my second language and I live in London, but I think I've made quite a few Shaylas. Have you not?
Oh gosh, I don't think I personally know a single one.
Because they were like, oh, it's so rare, it's so special. I was like, is it? But anyway, they Charlotte loses her grip and she's completely flipping at Lainey. And Samantha shows up and she's like, what's going on? And Charlotte is like, she stole my baby name. And Samantha takes the opportunity, is like, you bitch.
She was waiting for that
She
opportunity
was,
to
yeah,
yell at Lainey.
yes. And I think they all leave and then they stop on a bar, like a truck stop on the way back to Manhattan. And Carrie's talking to the girls about the fact that she is late. And they're having a discussion, which I think is hilarious because she's like, oh, I'm 7 days late. And Samantha's like, oh, that's gray area. You're fine. And Miranda's like, well, once I was 10 days late, trying to, make Carrie feel better. And Carrie asks her, were you having sex? And Miranda's like, no, which I think is hilarious. And then, they're asking her, will you tell Mr. Big? And she's like, well, I don't know. I don't know if I'll talk to him until I know how to finish this sentence. And I have to ask you, because obviously, say that Carrie decides that she cannot or she doesn't want to have this baby. And how fair or unfair do you think that it is for a woman to take that decision unilaterally and not let a man know?
Mm. Oh, I got like a pit in my stomach when you ask that, because that could be, I mean, it's a spicy question, and I try not to get like personal beliefs in there, but I think it's very circumstantial,
Yeah.
right? So Carrie is just in this newer relationship. She doesn't know Mr. Big very well. They had sex on the first date, and now she's been anxious if that's going to be like the falling out, if that's causing like the curse on the relationship. But they continue on dating, and then has this scare. And he's also told her that he's not marriage material. He's not interested in marriage.
Yeah.
And so for her, she's gathering this information, has this scare. I think anyone in that position would be asking themselves, what the heck do I do? I'm with someone who, could be, if I'm pregnant, the father of this baby is not interested in marrying me. But I think what she has to really pull back and ask herself, like, what do you want,
Yeah.
Carrie? Are you interested in becoming a mom? Is this something that you want? And depending on how the relationship goes with Mr. Big, let's say he's mature and, a grounded person that can regulate his emotions pretty well.
Yeah.
If she feels safe and comfortable, yeah, I would say, okay, before I answer that, I love to invite people when they have a big decision on the table. First of all, I never tell people what to do. It's not my job as a therapist. But I like to help them see two different sides, or maybe multiple sides. So if I
Yeah.
was Carrie's therapist, I would say, Carrie, okay, visualize what it would be like if you told Mr. Big that you are pregnant. Imagine his reaction. Imagine what might happen. And then sit with that for about a week. Sit with it, how your body feels, notice how it feels. Does any new thoughts or, you know, new beliefs come in after sitting with, I'm going to tell him. And then sit with another week, I'm not going to tell him, and see how that feels. And then at the end of those 2 weeks, they can really sit with, how did my body respond to these two decisions? And I just really believe the body is wise and can help guide us, and then bring in the values like, okay, Carrie, is this something that you wanted in the first place? If you
Yeah.
don't, what are your options?
I just think that unfortunately, probably her character was basing the decision on whether or not to tell him, not based on what she wanted, what it meant, but
Yeah.
how it would make him react. And if he would like bolt, she
Mm-hmm.
wouldn't tell him.
Yeah.
Okay. So after that, I think we are back in Manhattan, and then Carrie is shopping for pregnancy tests with Miranda, and then she's getting ready for a party. She decides she's not going to take the test until she knows how she feels about the result. And Lainey calls her. And she says, oh, I'm sorry I was such a bitch during the party. My hormones are all over the place, but I'd love to see you guys. And I mean, like, really see you. Because I think right before she left, she kind of dissed them. And she was like, guys, like, you think it's nice to, like, live 4 girls in New York looking for love. Like, you're a Susan whatever novel. Is not cute anymore. Like, grow up.
Mm.
So here I have two questions for you. One, what do you think about some women making other women feel inadequate about their choices, especially if it's not their choice? Like Charlotte, I think, wants this desperately, but just hasn't found it. And then the other one is, how big do hormones play a role in those big swings and in the mind of a pregnant woman?
Yeah. Oh, two good questions. So I'll answer the first one. I wish so badly that this could be on every billboard in the largest of cities, in every city across the whole world. let's just stop the comparison game and stop, you know, judging other women. Like, how I I often think, what would the world look like if we were to empower each other and respect each other a little bit more? And I just think,
Yeah.
I think it's a saying I've heard here in Utah, like, don't yuck other people's yums. Like, okay, Lainey's excited, it appears,
Yeah.
before this ending scene you just brought up. It appears she's excited to have this baby, and she's met new friends, and she kind of dumps on her old friend, like, saying having little jabs here and there. And she's excited about it. And then her friends are behind her back saying all these things about it. But then they're both doing it to each other. All of them are doing it to each other.
Yeah.
And when I was witnessing that in the episode, I thought, are those real friends? Like with Lainey and that friend group, it just seemed like no one really liked Lainey,
Yeah.
and that she didn't really like them. So I don't know. I think
Yeah.
it's really
Total
disheartening.
total frenemies.
Yeah. Yeah.
But then what about the hormones? Because like I have had some friends that especially postpartum, I think I've seen them maybe be a bit more emotional during pregnancy, but postpartum, it looks like they are hostage to their brain chemicals playing tricks on them.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm very curious to know, what does that look like from a professional perspective? Are there any ways that you think you've benefited or your clients have benefited from, I don't know if it's proper medication or therapy?
Yeah. Good question. Well, I would say therapy is always beneficial. So to have a secluded, safe space to talk about, this is everything that I'm feeling, what's wrong with me, and to be validated. Okay, well, maybe nothing's wrong with you. Maybe it's X, Y, or Z. And then we could educate on, you have a lot of hormones, going through your body. You're about to give birth. There's lots of changes. A lot of fears probably coming up too. When it comes to medication, it definitely depends if the person coming in has, so earlier I said perinatal mood or anxiety disorder. Those are very different than like generalized anxiety or major depression. So perinatal anxiety or depression, there's also OCD, psychosis, bipolar, PTSD that can happen during the perinatal stage. So it could be during pregnancy, something really, let's say anxiety, for example, comes up out of nowhere. Hormones definitely can play a factor, but there's so many other factors that play into if someone does have, I call it a PMAD disorder.
Okay.
And so medication would very much be helpful for specific disorders if the person feels comfortable taking them. And there are some medications that are safe to take during pregnancy and postpartum, and some are not. So I would say it definitely depends on that. But I think when women just get the education, I always love to encourage them, take a birthing class, read, here's some books that I recommend so they can educate and inform themselves on, these are the hormonal changes that are happening within my body. And when people get that education and knowledge, it kind of expands their awareness, and they find a little bit more gratitude from what I see. Like, holy cow, my body's doing so much to build this
Yeah.
human. And then they can also be angry about it at the same time. Like, I don't like that my body is doing this. And I can sit with that. Like, yeah, it sucks. Sometimes pregnancy sucks. And then they can highlight how it's also beautiful at the same time.
Yeah. I have to say though, I feel very disinformed, and I am lucky. I'm gonna say lucky. I'm gonna see the glass half full of not having been the first or not having children yet, because I see more and more different ways that my friends are deciding to embrace motherhood. And I think they do mention it in the episode, like nobody told me about. And I do think that the image that I had of motherhood and what it meant to be pregnant, give birth, and be a mother was not at all what it really is. Because I obviously remember my mom when I was already grown enough to, like, have that memory storage. And to me, there was no pain, there was no suffering. I remember they always told me that when my mom had to push me out, she had to push so hard that she like blew up so many blood vessels in her face. But that was it. Other than that, she loved me, never complained about me. And suddenly people are talking about postpartum depression, hormones, um, medication around postpartum, because sometimes it is chemicals that have changed in your brain. And if you don't have treatment, it will stick. I don't know if forever, but like, yeah. So I do think that there's a bit more information. I do think there's a bit more honesty amongst us and less judgment. But honestly, all in all, if I had had to have a baby, not having my friends have any babies, I would have been like, who cheated me?
Yeah. Because
Can I
Lainey, when
ask you,
she's, oh yeah,
yeah,
go
can
ahead.
I ask you how many kids do you have, and like, have you felt any difference through the processes?
Yeah, I have 3 daughters,
Oh,
and yeah, I love them. They're great. Motherhood is such a wild ride. But when I first entered motherhood, I did not like it. It was really hard for me. I don't ever remember growing up telling my journal or when people ask me like, what do you want to be when you grow up? I never said like a mom. I remember playing house and like wanting to be the mommy, but I don't ever remember it being like a huge desire of mine.
yeah,
Um, but when I met my husband, I mean, we've been together for 14 years. I mean, I love him so much. And then when we got into the stage where we were talking about having children, I definitely wanted it. And I knew I wanted kids. And the more kids I have. I just had my third daughter 5 months ago.
oh my
And
God.
yeah, I'm like fresh postpartum.
I had no idea.
Yeah. So, I mean, I've been a mom for almost 6 years. And when I put it into perspective like that, I think I still know nothing. And do I have any business in being a mom? Like 6 years compared to my 33 years of life is not that long. So, yes, definitely. To answer your question, each baby I have, I discover new parts of myself. And I would say, luckily for me, I love myself more and more through each baby. And I also attribute that to me doing my own work. I go to therapy monthly. I talk to
Yeah,
my therapist at motherhood. I've done some really hard work from like past childhood experiences and also the nuances that exist within motherhood of like, I hate it some days and I love it some days. So I do the work, and I'm really grateful that I haven't struggled with postpartum anxiety or depression after my second or third daughter. I mean, it could come up at any time, but luckily it hasn't for me yet. I struggled with it with my first daughter. And for me personally, I'm not quoting research or anything, but I gave birth to my first daughter in the hospital and I was pumped with medication, right? Like the
yeah,
epidural, all the things to help avoid pain.
yeah,
And I remember people telling me, you want the epidural, make sure you get it. And I didn't empower myself enough to do research of like maybe the risks and the benefits of an epidural or any other medication. And I didn't have a traumatic birth, but it wasn't an ideal birth for me. And I didn't bond with her right away. I
yeah,
remember just like, please get her away to the nursery. Like, I just need to sleep.
yeah.
And yeah, it was really sad for me. Like, there's so much grief still surrounding her birth story that I'm still processing 6 years later.
Oh, wow.
And then my second and third daughter I had at home unmedicated and in a pool, in a beautiful pool of water, a little tub. And it was so sacred and I felt everything. And with that experience, I learned a lot about myself. Each birth, I learned new things. I was writing in my journal about this other day, and I said, my first daughter taught me how to be a mom. My
Yeah.
second daughter taught me that I can do hard things. And my third daughter taught me how to surrender and trust my body and trust her. So all
You're
of
gonna
them
make me
very,
cry. That is beautiful.
thank you. Yeah, they're very sacred to me and very, very special. And I really love and feel passion for what I do and helping moms
Yeah.
with building their ideal experiences and help them when things don't go ideal.
I have to take this very selfishly because a friend of mine, I remember she had that plan. She did a lot of research and she wanted to have a natural birth at a hospital, but like vaginal, no epidural, etc. And I think also as you grow older, past 33, 34, you're more at risk of not being able to have a vaginal birth and you're more likely to have to do a C-section, or at least that's what I've been told by a doctor. But I remember my friend, she was in labor during the pandemic, I think December 2021, which in the UK was the peak of, I don't know which COVID. So the hospitals here were at very low um, staff. Sorry, my dog is stretching. Very low staff. And she was in labor for, I think, 30 hours before they decided this girl cannot do natural vaginal birth. She kept screaming, please give me an epidural. They tried to give her the epidural. It wasn't working. Morphine, it wasn't working.
Oh my gosh.
And then they had to do an emergency C-section after, I think, 30 hours when she was
Oh.
exhausted. And it was obviously a traumatic birth, but how do you think, because as a doula, I'm very curious to know how much room can you make for that when, maybe you are supposed to have a C-section?
Mhm. I approach birth very sacredly, no matter how the mom wants to birth, whether it's in the hospital, out in the woods, at home, birth
Yeah,
center, wherever. I learned this from an ancient midwife. I don't know if she's still alive. It was a documentary I watched, but she talked about how the woman is the first environment, and I fell in love with that because we are the first environment. We came from our mother's environment. She came
yeah,
from her mother's environment, the woman's environment. And so think about environment, right? If you've probably been in a place wherever in the world where you live, where you felt like this is not a good environment. I should probably leave. I
yeah,
don't feel good or something feels off. So you leave. So when I approach birth with the moms I work with, I ask them, what do you want your environment to look like to birth it? And they'll tell me, all their values and their desires. And then we'll go back to, okay, what is your environment currently feeling like? What do you think about your environment? How do you need to nurture this environment? And that kind of gives them some clues to there's some things that I need to work on for myself to birth this baby wherever I'm birthing in the environment. And so if a mom wants a really peaceful, low intervention birth environment, but they have this worry if something goes wrong, then they want to birth in the hospital. Then we'll give education. Okay, well, we can do the best we can to limit people coming in, but that's not a guarantee because hospitals have policies. So we'll just go through these lists
yeah,
of questions, and I'll ask if you really want a water birth and you want it to be quiet and just you and your spouse or your partner, then maybe let's look into a birth center or a home birth because hospitals, they have to adhere to policies, right? And so lots of education and informed consent. When it's an emergency, there's not going to be a lot of time to inform. And I'm disheartened where I hear a lot of moms when they process their birth stories with me as a therapist, not a doula, they tell me how they weren't told X, Y, or Z was going to happen. It just happened
right.
because of emergency circumstances. So I always like to encourage them, if you're hiring a doula or, have your partner, whoever is there, ask, okay, if we waited just 15 more minutes, is that safe? Can we really think about this before you make this
Yeah,
intervention occur?
yeah,
So kind of, I guess to answer your question, really going back to the environment and building on that to help you build your ideal birth, to hopefully avoid interventions that you don't want. This is such a loaded question. It's so complex that we
yeah.
probably need like a whole other episode to talk about.
I mean, I'm definitely popping all your information in the episode notes because I think a lot of my friends are going to have a lot of questions.
Oh.
Um, so I'm going to switch gears, bring it back to the episode. I think then we are at Samantha's party, which is I don't have a baby, everybody drink party. And we see Lainey crash this party. And I think seeing her old friends made her miss maybe, because like the grass is never greener. I think you always give up something, miss something. There's always a compromise. And you can see that they made her miss that side of her life. And I think she tries to get that Lainey out again. And did you ever feel, or do you see people that maybe once they are in it, they're like, whoa, I want to have one last hurrah. I want to feel like my old self before I give up my life and my brain for this baby?
Oh, 100%. 100%. I haven't personally seen like this last hurrah. Like the episode was pretty dramatic. Like she's like, get me a beer or something, get me a scotch or whiskey. And they're like, you're pregnant. She's like, oh, it's going to help
Yeah.
me go into labor. Okay, Lainey, that's
Is
really
that
not a great
true?
decision.
Okay,
I
no.
would never. I personally would never. No,
I've heard sex and spicy things. Yes. Alcohol, no.
I have a personal belief that your baby will come when they divinely want to come.
Okay.
If there's no like medical issues, like baby will come when they're ready. Um, Sometimes there's needed intervention there, but Lainey, like when I
No.
watched, I'm like, please don't drink, don't drink when you're about to have your baby. But yeah, there's this grief process where it's like they want to just hold on to this a little bit longer, this part of their life where it wasn't chaos. And when you become a mom, there's lots of chaos. You know, you're learning so many different things and you're being woken up and your body's changing. I compare it to puberty, right? If you can remember when you went through puberty, you're learning a new body, maybe your voice is changing a little bit. Um, you get new boobs. Like,
I
there's just
never
so
did,
many things.
sadly, but yeah.
You also get new boobs when you
Yeah.
become a mom. Like it's just there's so many changes. And so just with your whole body changing, your brain chemistry is also changing. And and then yeah, it's like this, oh, I just want to like hang and grasp onto this life that has been so familiar for me because it's about to get really unfamiliar for a lot of
Yeah.
people. And there can be a lot of grief, like I've mentioned, mixed in that. Or there's a lot of women like Charlotte who's like so excited and wants to have that so badly. So yeah, I've seen both sides where people are like, oh, I don't think I'm ready for this. I don't actually want to do this. But once they're there, they're like, oh wow. Like I've seen people go from I don't think I want to do this anymore to this is the best thing I've ever done.
Yeah.
To some like I don't want to do this at all.
Okay, so we hope that that's what happened to Lainey. Um, then I think they put her in a cab, and like that scene is super sad. She's like she doesn't want to leave, but
Did you
off she
catch
goes
what
back
she
to the.
said at the end?
No.
She's like, no one warned me that it
Oh,
would be like this.
yes, that's what I remember. That yes, there's nobody tells you. Yeah.
That's how I felt as a first time mom. No one told
Oh,
me how hard and isolating it was going to be.
were
But
you
that
one of
was,
the first ones amongst your friend group?
yeah, I was the very first.
Oh wow.
Yep. And hmm, I believe mine came like no one warned me because I was struggling with postpartum anxiety, postpartum
Yeah.
depression, where I didn't have words for this is an actual issue. Like this is an actual disorder that you're struggling with here. And that I
So
didn't
even
know.
back then, that it was 6 years ago, nobody was putting a name to it.
No, because it's not talked a lot about here, especially in Utah, where there's a lot of moms here, really young moms, and it's a very religious state, and there's a lot of comparison. I personally believe there's a lot of comparison, and it's just not talked about. Motherhood's not talked about openly, unless it's like, oh, everything's great, like it's so fun and enjoyable.
Yeah.
But But even, I would say it's not even just Utah, but a lot of the world just doesn't, it's like it's a stigma to talk about postpartum anxiety, postpartum depression. But luckily, it's being talked a lot. I mean, a
Yeah.
lot more.
Yeah.
There's a lot of education around it now. And if I would have known, I had a therapist at the time, but I had no idea there was therapists that specialized in helping treat moms with their struggles postpartum or even during
Yeah.
pregnancy. I had no idea. And I was a therapist. I had no idea.
That's incredible. Because obviously I have no idea, but because, yeah, why would I? Um, okay. And then I think the episode ends with Carrie going to a kids park and trying to picture herself if she was maternal, not maternal. Because I think you've talked about this, that maybe you didn't have the most maternal instincts. And I think that Carrie's questioning, like, am I maternal? And I remember my mom always told me, like, listen, I never liked kids, but when I had you guys, like, it was something different. So, what do you think about maybe somebody that thinks that maybe that's just not in the cards for them because they don't have a maternal instinct?
Yeah. I've met a lot of people who've said that. And to their surprise, most of the time, it just comes to them. Like
Yeah,
they have that maternal instinct. Some they don't. And that's okay. Where if they don't, then I would encourage them, let's build your maternal village. Let's build maternal presence around you so you can
yeah,
rely on them to support you as well. If you don't feel like you have that maternal instinct, I mean, you can hire an au pair or a nanny to support.
yeah,
If that's, you know, you have the ability to do that, or aunts, your
yeah,
mother, if you have a good relationship. But I like to explore that with clients when they say, like, I don't feel like I'm very maternal. We'll explore, like, what is maternal? What does it mean to you?
exactly.
What do you want
I
it to
have,
look like?
yeah, I have a friend who recently became a first-time mom. And she was very adamant that she was not going to lose her identity and she did not want to take maternity leave. She was going to take the legally, like, mandatory time. Um, and I went to see her recently and she's doing fantastically. And I was like, oh, do you regret not taking more maternity leave? And she was like, no, because I love to, like, my job kickstarted me feeling like myself. And when I come back home, I spend quality time with my kid. I don't feel like I'm her or his, sorry, house prisoner. So I'm finding it really inspiring to see some of my friends become really different kind of mothers. And back to your question of what is maternal, I think she's extremely maternal with him and she does enjoy her time with him so much, but it's very much in her terms and it doesn't look anything like I've been raised to see maternal.
Hmm. Yeah, I believe everyone's going to have a different opinion or idea on what maternal is. And it really goes back to what have we been taught, like these societal messages about motherhood. That comes up, I would say, a lot of the time in my office. Of I learned about motherhood like this, and I'm way over here.
Yeah,
And I don't even know if I want this. So we'll explore, what do you want? What do you want it to look like? You get to choose, you get to embody how you want to embody motherhood. Like you have that choice. So just to have people here, like, I get to choose, it's really freeing for them and
yeah.
empowering.
Okay, so now off to the last bit of these episodes, which is what would your advice be for each one of the girls after watching the episode? So, starting by Carrie, what would you tell maybe a client of yours that has been dating an obviously avoidant attachment style man and thinks she might be pregnant? And yeah,
I love this question. So I actually wrote my advice down. I'm going to read it. So if
awesome.
is this is this as if Carrie was my client?
Yes.
Okay. So if Carrie was my client, I would tell her, Carrie, motherhood doesn't need to be a yes or no right now. It's okay to explore your feelings and ask yourself what you want, not what Mr. Big wants, not what society wants. Clarity often comes with time and self reflection. Don't stress. You have time.
Awesome. Okay, what would you tell Samantha, who has this frenemy situation with Lainey, and she is so nasty to her?
She
What?
is.
Yeah.
Oh,
What would you
first
tell
of
her?
all, I would say Samantha would be a really challenging client.
Oh yeah, she'd be like, "What am I even doing here?"
I know. She's like, I'm paying you the big bucks for what? Um, so I would say this. So Samantha said, Samantha, I love your confidence, but ask yourself this. Is this party about celebrating your choice or pointing the middle finger to Lainey? Make sure that your energy is going towards uplifting yourself and not competing with other people.
Yes. Okay, what about Miranda, who seems to be like very much like team sisterhood of motherhood, and like once you go there, you lose them versus us normals?
I think Miranda would also be a tough client because she's like always rolling her eyes at everything that doesn't align with her. She's
Yeah,
like, can we just get curious? So, what I would tell her is, Miranda, it's okay to not relate to every life choice that your friends make. Instead of judging them, get curious, ask questions, seek understanding, and remember what works for one woman might be very different from what works for you. Also known as don't yuck other people's yums.
I hadn't heard that saying in such a long time. I love it. Okay, and last, Charlotte, what about her getting so offended about Lainey taking her baby name and mourning her dream life? Because we haven't talked about it, but when she pulls that little chest filled with all of these dreams, what
Yeah, a
would you tell
pre-made
her?
pillow for her daughter Shayla. Like that was
Oh my God,
heartbreaking.
yeah.
Um, I just want to say before I give advice to Charlotte is that's just girl code. You don't just take each other's babies' names. That's just a big no-no, first of all. Would you agree or disagree?
I agree, but like if somebody took my baby name and they're like, but you don't even have a baby, which they say to her, you're not even pregnant, and then you might never be, I'd be like, what do I say to that?
I know, but still, if it's like if you're really true
It is girl
friends, that's
code.
girl code.
Yeah.
Totally. Okay, so the advice I'd give to Charlotte was names don't hold your dreams, you do. Your future baby, wherever and however they arrive, will be special because of the love you have for them and the love you bring to their life, not the name they're given. It's okay to mourn a vision of your life that hasn't come true yet, but don't let it rob you of the present moment. Dreams evolve and yours will too.
I love that one. I'm happy we left Charlotte for the end. Thank you so
No.
much, Jessica. I think before we say goodbye, I would love to maybe have you plug in anything that you want to plug in, talk about what you're excited about working on at the moment, and anybody that wants to reach out to you to maybe work with you, what they should know.
Yes, thank you. Yeah, I'm a licensed therapist here in Utah, so I'm only able to do therapy with people who live in Utah. So, any Utah people that are listening, yes, I can work with you. However, if you are outside of Utah or outside the country, exciting news. I am actually opening another business where I'm able to work with people worldwide. So, it's my doula
Awesome.
business, and I'm going to do a lot of I'm taking some births this year, but I'm mainly going to be focusing on educating and working one on one with helping people build their ideal birth plan and really build their postpartum village. So that will be online if you're outside of Utah. And I'm currently working on my website, and my Instagram handle for that is empowered and rising.
Okay.
And then
Awesome.
therapy stuff, if you're interested in just following along for education for motherhood, perinatal mental health, my Instagram is Jessica the Therapist.
I will pop those two down on the episode notes, and hopefully we can share the website as soon as it's ready.
Yes, I'll send it to you as soon as it's ready.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Jessica. This has been so sweet to share with you, and thank you for sharing so much about your own journey on this.
Yeah, thanks for having me. This has been such a pleasure. I've loved it.
Oh, awesome. I can't wait to have you on again.
I would love to anytime.
All right. Thank you so much. Thank you for tuning in to another episode of And Just Like That, We Found Therapy. As per usual, don't forget to check the show notes for all things related to today's guest. Also, check out my Instagram and TikTok accounts at We Found Therapy Pod. And also, please don't forget to share it, rate 5 stars, and leave me any comments on the pod because it always helps me make a better podcast, but also it helps the podcast in general. And also, feel free to DM me. I'm all ears. See you on our next therapy session. I love y'all. Bye.